events and connecting people, and wine does bring a lot of people together.
Well, as a Frenchman, I won't contradict you for sure. Hi David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
So it's a pleasure to spend some time with you. I know we missed each other at the Pay 360 event recently. Let's start with a quote from your website. Silicon Valley Bank is the only global bank dedicated to the innovation sector. SVB is at the center of the global innovation ecosystem, and our unique focus means we understand the industry dynamics. And we are the bank of the innovation economy. Not too shabby for a 30 years old bank.
Yep, definitely. If you look at really our history, we grew up in Silicon Valley over 35 years ago, and we bank everyone within the innovation ecosystem. So we bank the investors, global funds, private equity, venture capital firms, all bank with SVB. And then on the flip side of that, we're working with innovative technology companies, whether it's new technology companies that are coming out of incubators and accelerators, ones that are getting venture funding, and then as they grow and scale, we support them all the way up to going public and beyond.
And you've got a global presence, which is quite, again, unique, being so focused on the tech industry. So congratulations for the banking license in Canada.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been an exciting few years. I mean, I've been with the bank close to 8-9 years now, and during that time, obviously, headquartered out of California, but have grown to over 30 cities across the U.S. Our banking license here in London and covering the U.K., growing through with banking licenses in our joint venture in China and Shanghai and out there, and recently getting our license in Germany with our branch in Frankfurt. And then we've just, as you mentioned, getting our license to start doing lending in Canada. So it's been really exciting growth over the last few years.
And I just read recently you've got great relationships with Canada, despite some of the little conflicts or frictions with Washington at the moment. But anyway, what makes you one of the best financial partners to the fintech industry nowadays?
Well, I think it's, as you mentioned, being within the industry for over 35 years, having the relationships that we do from the venture banking side and venture capital side to then the tech firms. So it's not something that we've just come into in the last few years. We have deep-seated knowledge and relationships, so it's being able to do basic banking for companies and understanding how they're going to scale and how they're going to grow, and being able to support them with that, not just through the banking services on a day-to-day basis, but being able to lend to them and help them grow through injecting that capital. And that's something that you don't gain overnight, you don't gain within the last few years. You survive a number of cycles with that and do it successfully. So that's really where I think we find ourselves to be one of the best partners, if not the best partner, within the banking sphere for innovative technology companies.
So the understanding of what's required at the various life stages of those organizations, and the ability again to accompany them from when the early stage, almost when they just launch, to the stage when they become unicorns, for instance, right?
Absolutely, and it's how we've set up our relationship teams, the various services and products that we work with clients. So it's understanding exactly where we can be meaningful for them if they're coming just out of an incubator and accelerator program, or if they've just raised some seed funding. It's knowing how can we help them the most during that period of time and give them support. But then as they raise from maybe venture capital firm, how can we also then leverage other capabilities that we have and grow with them and bring in the right specialists at the right time? And as they approach going public, knowing that we've done this with other companies, bringing in the right teams that can support them all the way through that life cycle. And on the flip side of that too, having relationship teams that work with private equity and venture capital firms that know how they operate, what they're doing, and then being able to introduce companies back and forth to really make us a powerful partner in the middle of that ecosystem, and then bring in other entities like corporate customers and corporate venture groups to be able to look at that, as you've seen some of that become more important within the industry these days too.
So we can see the value as the Fintech Power 50 and for our members potentially. A question at the moment, open banking, of course, everybody's the rage, everybody's talking about it, and we saw a lot of new entrants in the last few years. But we also saw quite a few issues on the PR level. You don't have to talk about those companies in particular, but two big unicorns, right, recently had a bit of an issue with compliance processes and some PR issues. Do you think that could have a long-lasting impact in terms of people perception and the ability of neobanks to grow their business in a country like the UK?
I don't think in the long term it will. I think in the short term it's something that obviously I think any company that's in a regulated atmosphere, whether you're talking about the newly regulated companies that are third-party processors, AISPs and PISPs, that's a whole new regulation regime that those types of companies are either starting up right into, or legacy companies that are having to grow into that regulation. So there probably will be things that pop up just for companies like that. There's obviously been not just PSD2, but the original PSD, that e-money licenses and things like that have all these new fintech firms that have grown up over the years. Those are things that they grow into, just like obviously on the banking side too. That has happened a number of times in history. So it's something that it happens. Regulation evolves because of it, in spite of it, for it. So I think in the long term, everyone ends up being better for it, because there may be missteps, but regulation and companies and financial institutions will adapt and grow because of it.
Well, it's a topic of people and memories as well. So people tend to forget that exactly even the larger incumbent banks went through that, or even on a cycle basis. But so David McHenry, let's talk about you a bit. If I had more time, I'll ask you more about your board membership as Present Music in the US, but I'm not sure it's the topic of this video. But seriously, I'd love to find out more about that. A US citizen, I guess, living in the UK for quite some time now. What's exciting in Europe versus the world in fintech?
Well, I think what's been great, my just over 4 years here in London, being based in the UK after moving over from San Francisco, is this is truly a global fintech hub. And that won't change no matter what's going to be happening for a long period of time, because it is such a great ecosystem. You have investment that's here, you have companies, you have talent that are here in London, you have a regulatory regime that is enabling a lot of forward thinking and new things that are popping up, and within a very tight, dense urban atmosphere, if you're looking at it just from a London standpoint, that it becomes a great lab for testing out new ideas. So I think it has all these makings of how it's developed into this fintech hub, and it will be in the future. And I love being here to see how bigger players have enabled technology, whether it's us using contactless cards within the tube, and how you see how that impacts our daily lives, but newer companies that are coming in that are changing the way how we order food, or things like that within the world, and then things like open banking that are going to power so many unique other things within our kind of personal lives or business lives in the forward and in the future.
And you see, of course, most banks are trying to embrace that, the incumbent banks and, of course, the neobanks. But last week, I think, and even Nationwide announced they are Banking for Good challenge, working with 7 carefully selected fintech startups. You're a payment man, and I used to work at Swift as well years ago. So Europe is fascinating. You've got countries like Turkey. They plan to be cashless by 2023, which is incredible when you think about it. So what are the key trends in payments that you're most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key trends right now is obviously, and it'd be probably a longer burn, but with open banking and more real-time payments and instant payments that are here with faster payments in the UK, and how open banking may enable those in more daily interactions, I think is really exciting. And I think that's going to be really long-term to see how that evolves, versus obviously how cards have evolved so quickly and are a big part of our payment kind of processing power here in the UK and globally is really interesting. I think coming up this year, PSD2, open banking, seeing those really come to fruition in the fall through the end of the year. Big part of that from a payments perspective that's going to be unique and challenging is definitely going to be secure customer authentication. And I think that is going to have a big impact on how we utilize cards, how we utilize banking platforms, and probably will be a pain point initially at the start. And then as different incumbents, whether it's on the acquiring side and the issuing side, adapt to that, we'll actually leverage some really cool things in the future. So I think those are some of the biggest trends that I see right now, in terms of how legacy companies are going to be forced to adapt to new things, and how actually new companies are going to evolve some really cool technologies to enable them and also do their own thing.
Even the sun is making an appearance for you, David, so you have to say some very insightful things actually to make that happen in London today. Yeah, it's great to see the move to the holy grail of frictionless and STP and focusing on experience even in payments. That's becoming more and more real, so which is quite exciting, of course, in 2019. Finally, So the Fintech Power 50, we're a fintech program, so we'd love to work with an organization like yourself. How important are partnerships for you worldwide to further increase that awareness among the fintech industry that you're probably one of the very best partners?
Absolutely. I mean, it comes from the fact that we see ourselves as part of an ecosystem. So partnerships are a huge part of that. Being in the middle of it, being able to promote how we can help, but also promote our clients and our investors and making sure that we're making the connections that are really important. So partnerships are a huge part of that and a really important part of that.
Worldwide, right? So we're not only in the US or in London, but Israel and other parts of the world.
Absolutely, yeah. It started for us, yeah. It's our base in the US, but it's the same methodology that we take as we are here in the UK, what we're doing in China, what we do out of our rep office in Hong Kong. We have a great team that's in Herzliya outside of Tel Aviv that's connecting the technology ecosystem there with investors and clients and helping them go global. What we're going to start doing in Canada, it's global, and it is a local ecosystem, but it is also a global ecosystem because everybody's moving at such pace and scaling and going global so quickly. It's connecting all those dots, and partnerships are huge.
And you mentioned in Israel in a previous conversation, you already engaged with hundreds of local players, am I correct?
We're really exciting what the team in Israel have been able to do with that office, where we work with hundreds of Israeli firms in a number of different ways and help them and enable them to do banking, whether it's helping them as they grow into the UK where we have banking, or obviously into the US, support them as they want to grow. And it's been a fantastic success story for that team there, and a great ecosystem with so many amazing things that are actually going on with the tech companies there.
Well, thank you very much again, David, for your time. I know you're a busy man, so I'm glad we managed to catch up. Thank you. And next time, let's talk about premium wine, because I think you at SVB, you're also big on that, no?
Absolutely. It is amazing that actually that has grown up to be a really meaningful part of our platform, and our clients like it. We have a great set of clients that come out of Napa, Sonoma, other places like the Central Coast of California and up into Oregon that team's been able to develop, and it actually becomes a big piece of being able to host different events and connecting people, and wine does bring a lot of people together.
Well, as a Frenchman, I won't contradict you for sure, so I'm thinking about Sideways as well, another movie. But anyway, thank you so much, David, and see you again very soon.
Thank you very much.